President Obama made some infuriating comments on the issue of health care in the Journal of the American Medical Association. So he said, public programs like Medicare often deliver care more cost-effectively by curtailing administrative overhead and securing better prices from providers. The public plan did not make it into the final legislation. Now, based on experience with the ACA, I think Congress should revisit a public plan to compete alongside private insurers in areas of the country where competition is limited. Now, you're probably thinking, well, hold on, Kyle. Why are you angry? Isn't he saying something that you want him to say? Well, of course I want him to be in favor of a public plan. I want him to go further and be in favor of single payer, not just a public option, which is like a step below that. But as somebody pointed out to me on Twitter, I think it was Elmer Mendez, he sent the tweet to me. He said, if only you were president with like a supermajority or something. Dude, Obama had a supermajority. He had the Democrats locked down. And they didn't do a public option. They didn't do single payer. They didn't do a public option. They did this shitty reform. Now, this is where a bunch of people who know dick about politics come out and say, well, you had to do the thing, compromise, negotiations. Did you not hear me? I said he had a supermajority. He could do whatever the fuck he wanted to do. Yeah, but the blue dogs, Democrats, blue dogs, they're going to block them. They're going to block them. Funny you say that. Let me remind you what Senator Tom Harkin, a top Democrat of Iowa, said at the time, quote, we had the votes in 2009. We had a huge majority in the House. We had 60 votes in the Senate. Obama's administration should have passed single payer right from the get-go, or at least put a public option, which would have simplified a lot. We had the votes to do that, and we blew it. So anyway, you were saying about how we don't have the votes to do it, and we didn't have the votes to do it? No, this is somebody who knew the situation much better than you do, and he said, no, of course we had the votes. Of course we had a fucking supermajority. That is the definition of having the votes. Now, again, to the people who would be the minor obstructionists, the Blue Dog Democrats, here's how LBJ would have handled that. Here's how FDR would have handled that. Here's how anybody who really wanted to get it done in new politics would have handled that. You call the few blue dogs, there aren't that many blue dogs, you call the few of them that there are into your office who are saying, I don't want to do this because I'm from a Republican state and they might vote me out if I vote for this thing, so I'm not going to do it. Huff and puff. Anger. Do I look mad? Call him in your office if you're Obama. You say, look, I'm going to make this simple. What are my approval ratings right now? At the time, his approval ratings were high. What are my approval ratings right now? Great. You see that? What are yours? Right. They're low. Interesting. So here's what's going to happen. If you don't vote for this legislation, whatever legislation I put up, whether it's single payer, public option, whatever, if you don't vote for it, your career's over. It's done. That's it. Go find a job in your shitty home state. Go for it. And then you're like, well, hold on now. How's that guaranteed to work? Well, what you say is, if you don't vote for this, I will primary you, and I will campaign for your primary opponent endlessly. And I'm way more popular than you are. And we will get that person to oust your ass. So you're done. I'll get the DNC to pour way more money into their campaign than your campaign. So, do you want to fight a political force? I'm going down in the history books, son. Are you? You're a nobody. So do you want to come up against this political force and lose your career and be done with politics, be blackballed from politics? You'll have no chance in this Democratic Party ever. Do you want to do that or not? It's up to you. Vote for it or you're done. Your career's over. That's how you handle it. You know what would have happened? Of course they would have voted for it. Of course they would have voted for it. If there's one thing people in Washington care about, it's their ass. So if you say, well, your ass is on the line, you vote for this or else, or you're done. Your career's over. That's it. And you had a supermajority. So the only people standing in your way, theoretically, were the blue dogs. Twist their arm just a little bit. Okay, I vote for it. That's it. And again, now Obama's saying, well, a public option would have been good. You could have even gotten fucking single payer, Medicare for all, but you didn't do it because you didn't want to do it. You actually believe in this watered-down right-wing reform. People forget, Obamacare, so an individual mandate reform, that originally came from Republicans. Richard Nixon proposed a similar idea to that when he was president. Bob Dole proposed a similar plan to that. The Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank, wrote policy papers about how this is what we like as a counter to single payer, the Democratic idea, because this is less government. So what did Obama do? He said, okay, let's just cave all the way to the Republican idea and pass that. And they passed that, and they still got 0 Republican votes. So if you got 0 Republican votes, you could have done a better plan and still got 0 Republican votes. And this isn't hard to fucking figure out. But now he comes out and says, I'm for a public option. By the way, why is he doing it? He's doing it because Bernie Sanders massively pushed the Democratic Party to the left. He did. In the primary season, now the Democrats have to do progressive rhetoric or else they don't get any fucking votes. So Bernie Sanders comes along, massively pushes the party to the left, says Medicare for all, and that's the end of the conversation. Now, recently, we just learned this week, Hillary came out and said, okay. I'm going to meet Bernie halfway. I'm for a public option now. So he pushed Hillary to the left. Obama's trying to get Hillary elected, campaigning for her, so what does he have to do? I agree with Hillary Clinton's plan. Let's do a public option. We should do a public option. I mean, hey, I see how Obamacare is rolling out, and a public option would still be preferable. So this is all Bernie Sanders to thank for all this. Bernie Sanders goes to the left where the real position should be, Medicare for all, end of discussion. Hillary goes, okay, I'll meet you halfway, public option, that's what I'm for. And that forces even Obama to come out and say, I'm for the public option. But look, when push comes to shove, Obama, he's just mimicking the moves. Notice, Obama does this every time he runs for office. In 2008, he sounded much more progressive than he actually was when he governed. In 2012, he sounded much more progressive than he was when he actually governed. Now that he's campaigning again, trying to get Hillary elected, look at that. Much more progressive than he was when he actually governed. So, and this is what they say. Notice when it comes time to get your vote, all of a sudden, oh, the progressive ideas are better. I don't know what you're talking about. But when they're in power, let's go with the centrist-y, corporatist establishment ideas. It really is sad, man, because they're playing a game with your life. This isn't a hard issue to figure out, healthcare. This is one of the does. So look at the rest of the modern world. They all have one version or another of a single-payer system where, you know, the government is the insurer. Here, we don't. And our Democratic politicians are still like, maybe we'll go to a public option, but not full single payer, because let's not be crazy / rational and do what every other modern nation has. So this annoys me if you can't tell. You wanted single payer, you could have fucking gotten it. You wanted a public option, you definitely could have gotten that. You didn't fucking want it.